Paranormal Investigations Hawaii, from the case files of Harry Wong, Paranormal Investigator. Season 1, Episode 3, The Haunting at the Moani Hotel, Part 1.
You may be wondering what I'm doing here standing before the gateway to hell. I'm kinda thinking the same thing myself. Now, if I had just applied myself in school, I'd be in a nice safe office working a nice safe job. You know, kinda like my brother, a software engineer. Imagine how wonderfully boring it would be to just sit in front of a computer all day waiting for 5 p.m. Pauhana time instead of trying to avoid being sucked into hell. Life choices, right? Who knew when I woke up this morning, I'd be in this position? Certainly not me when my latest client came banging on my door at 8 a.m. sharp, expecting me to open on time. Hey, sorry, but sometimes my hangover tells me what time to open up. And this morning was more of a maybe 9 a.m., maybe 9:30 a.m. opening. But there she was, knocking on my door and making me open up at 8 a.m. like it says on my sign. I stumbled over to the door and opened it to stop the banging. But unfortunately, the banging still continued in my head.
Good morning. Are you Mr. Wong? My name is Hillary Wu, Assistant General Manager at the Moani Hotel. I need your help with a ghost problem.
Well, that woke me up. Although it had fallen on hard times lately, the Moani Hotel was one of Hawaii's oldest and most prestigious hotels. I mean, it has hosted royalty from the King of England to the King of Rock and Roll. That's me, I tried to mumble somewhat coherently. You came to the right place, ma'am. Sorry for my appearance. I work all hours on my cases sometimes. Actually, I was up late binge watching one of those ghost hunting shows. What? No judge. I might learn a trick or two. You never know. Hey, who made that rule that ghosts only come out at night, right? Ha! I joked. She didn't crack a smile. Ms. Wu was somewhere in the vicinity of mid-30s if my hyper-accurate PI instincts were correct. She wore an outfit that was stylish but conservative, and which, along with her jewelry, will set me back 6 months to afford something similar. She was attractive but gave off a certain vibe that said, I'm important and busy, stay out of my way. This one may be difficult to deal with. Come in and have a seat, don't mind the mess, I'm redecorating, I fibbed as I scrambled to clean off old bills, newspapers, and assorted junk off the chair and table. She gave me a disapproving look as she sat down across from me. Now, how can I help you?
I got your name from one of my maids at the hotel, Ellen Kusagawa. You worked on a case for her last year and she highly recommended you.
Oh yeah, the case of the headless boy. She had been seeing a headless boy in her neighbor's house at night. Turned out her neighbor's son played a prank on her. The headless boy was a cardboard cutout of Macaulay Culkin from a Home Alone promo stolen from 7-Eleven. I remember that case was a colossal waste of time, but you always treat each case as if it's the most important case you ever had and trust that it will pay off one way or another. And besides, you can't underestimate the value of good PR.
Nevertheless, she was very complimentary on your dealings with her and the way you handled the case, and that you were fair and honest with her.
I told her she never had to pay me, but she insisted on giving me a box of malasadas anyways, which anyone with working taste buds would not be able to resist. She let slip a quick smile, then suppressed it immediately. I'm gonna crack that icy exterior before this potential case is solved, or my name isn't Harry Wong, PI.
I assure you, this case is not a hoax. I'm sure you've heard of the Joyce Branford incident.
As a matter of fact, I have. Hawaiian history was one of the few subjects I passed in high school, along with PE and home economics. I read about Joyce Branford in my high school Hawaiian history class. She founded Branford University and died under mysterious circumstances in the early 1900s while vacationing at the then newly built Moani Hotel in Waikiki. The authorities at the time suspected she was poisoned, but they never found the perpetrator. Ms. Wu raised one eyebrow and gave me an inquiring stare, as if she was surprised I knew this much about Branford.
If you're familiar with Joyce Branford, then you know the rumors surrounding her death and the subsequent folktales that have circulated over the years.
I've heard about her sightings of her ghost wandering down the halls of the hotel, asking for the location of the ice machine.
This isn't a laughing matter, Mr. Wong. But you have the gist of it. Guests and staff have reported sightings around the hotel over the last century, but these encounters have been quite benign, and frankly, with the current interest in ghost hunting shows, it was good for business. But recently, she's gone from Casper the Friendly Ghost to The Conjuring.
Alright, you have me intrigued now. Tell me everything you can think of, even if it doesn't seem relevant. I brought out my phone and hit the record app as she started.
Well, Mr. Wong, as you know,
Please, call me Harry. And I'll call you, Hill.
if you call me Hill, you get a blank stare. No one calls me Hill. My name is Hillary.
Sorry, Hillary. Please continue.
As I was saying, you seem to be familiar with the case of Joyce Branford and her sightings at the Moani Hotel. She was featured on one of those ghost hunter shows with the douche bro hosts. You know, the dudes with the too tight black shirts, fake EMF sensors, running around with their night vision cameras. They booked a night, without our knowledge, in room 217, the room where Branford stayed when she died, and they surreptitiously filmed an episode there. That was one of their most popular episodes, and the reservations for room 217 skyrocketed. The room was booked up to a year in advance due to the publicity from the show. A man named William Satterley made one of these reservations. We found out after the fact that he was a self-proclaimed occultist and head of an underground church of some sort. He booked the room for one night, but didn't check out the next day.
You could say, like the Roach Motel, he went check in and never check out. I couldn't help myself. Hillary cracked the smallest of smiles, then gained her composure.
When the maid made her rounds, the room looked like a crime scene. Blood was splattered everywhere. The police confirmed from DNA tests that it was Satterley's blood, but the security cameras did not record him leaving the hotel, whether by his own power or in a body bag. He just disappeared. The police also thought it strange that Satterley didn't bring any luggage when he checked in. It took a month to clean and replace everything in that room to make it usable again. There were some details which were not made public.
Like what? What kind of details? Can you be more specific?
There were signs of a ritual of some sort that took place.
What type of ritual are we talking about? Do you have any pictures of the crime scene you can show me? That would really help a lot.
Sorry, HPD did not allow us to take any pictures. They supervised the cleaning to make sure of that.
No problemo. As a longtime PI, I have contacts at HPD where I can get a copy.
We thought it might be some type of ritual because there was a hexagon made of salt drawn on the floor where most of the blood was found. Whatever happened occurred within that hexagon. There were also remnants of burnt incense strewn around the room and a drawing painted on the ceiling in blood.
Can you describe the drawing for me, please?
It looked like a snake or dragon laid in a circular pattern, head to tail, but it looked like the snake was eating its own tail.
Hillary visibly shivered when she described that part. That is an Ouroboros, a serpent eating its tail. This was an ancient symbol of life, death, rebirth, and the transmigration of souls. It first showed up in the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead. The symbol and its concepts were passed down through other cultures, including ancient Sumerian, Mesopotamian, and Akkadian religious practices and rituals.
But what does it mean?
From what Ewan described, and I need to confirm by seeing the actual pictures of the crime scene first, but this has all the indications of a ritual sacrifice to transfer one's soul from our world to the netherworld.
And one soul from the netherworld to our world.
Hillary finished my thought for me, and I didn't know whether to be afraid or to be very afraid. I was initially reluctant to take the case, not because I didn't think it had merit, but that there could be a lot of publicity involved, and I preferred to keep a low profile for my own reasons, some of which may or may not have to do with avoiding debt collectors or the IRS. But the opportunity to investigate what could be genuine contact with the netherworld was too much for me to pass on. Just to be sure though, I stopped by HPD headquarters first to ask a favor from my contact there, Sergeant Saito, to view the crime scene photos. It was as Hillary described it. There was a large pool of blood within a hexagon of salt. The blood soaked through the carpet and to the floor below. Someone took that blood and drew a crude but recognizable shape of the Ouroboros on the ceiling. It was unmistakable if you were familiar with mythological concepts and creatures. If Satterley killed himself, he took great efforts to draw this before he bled out and died, which told me that this was either an important and powerful ritual, or he was Lolo. Rooms 217 was still closed to the public while cleanup was completing, so this was a good time to get a close-up view of the scene of the crime. I scheduled with Hillary to arrive at the hotel around 5 p.m., which meant somewhere closer to 6 p.m. Hawaiian time, a concept which was created as a response to the horrific rush hour traffic in downtown Honolulu. Hillary was paused for the day, but left the key card at the front desk for me. I approached a young male clerk at the counter with a name tag that read Kyoki. He appeared to be in his early 20s, a mixed local hapa, I would guess, probably newly graduated in hospitality management, but still stuck at the front desk. Hey, how's it, Kyoki? I was hired by the assistant manager to check on one of the rooms. She should have left the key for me. Do you have an envelope with my name on it? The name is Wong, Harry Wong.
You mean Mrs. Wu? Sure thing, let me find it for you.
Kyoki replied cheerfully as he looked around the front desk area. I expected someone impatient and jaded from having to deal with annoying tourists all day, and was pleasantly surprised to be wrong. He found a post-it note taped to a keycard that had 217 written on it and handed it to me reluctantly after giving me a long, nervous look.
Are you sure this is the right room? I wouldn't recommend going in there after dark. We've heard strange noises coming from room 217 at night, and it's been vacant for weeks. We've stopped booking rooms 216 and 218 because of complaints about the noise and odors coming from 217.
I looked at Kyoki and saw fear in his eyes. He wasn't playing with me. What type of noises have you heard? I asked.
Well, sometimes there's a banging on the door as if someone or something is trying to get out. We thought maybe a kid locked himself by accident, but when we go to look, there's no one in the room. Other times, there's a scratching sound, like something inside is trying to claw its way out. Sometimes, there's the sound of a child crying. But once again, when we go inside to check, there's no one there. Those are the worst.
Kyoki visibly shivered. Hey, Kyoki, who else has access to the room?
Well, ever since the incident, hotel management has kept the room off limits to guests and staff while the room is being renovated. Only the contractors go in there during the day, but they've been reluctant to work on the room due to the recent incidents, so the progress has been slow. Otherwise, only management and desk clerks have access. We check on the room occasionally when someone reports strange noises or other activities. We play Junkin-Po, or rock, paper, scissors, to decide who the loser is and has to go check out the room when they're called.
Mahalos, brother. No worries. I'll only be in there a few minutes, half hour tops. I took the key card and headed for the elevator and room 217. I exited the elevator and followed the signs to room 217. It was located on the opposite end of the floor, away from the elevators, which meant if I had to heli on out of there for whatever reason, it was a better idea to head for the stairs, which were closer. As I neared the room, I felt the quality of the air changing. It felt thicker in my throat, which made it harder to breathe, as if I were walking through a dense fog. The sound of the traffic and other noises coming from outside the hotel changed too. It was hard to describe, but the sounds were distorted, as if I were hearing it underwater. I shook my head to clear it. This damn case was affecting me even before I started the investigation. I felt the headache coming on. I reached room 217 and noticed that the door was ajar by an inch. Did the maid forget to close the door after cleaning the room? That was very sloppy service for a 4-star hotel such as the Moani. But maybe they were in a rush to get out of there? My headache grew more intense. I pushed the door open slowly and looked in the room. It was much darker than it should have been for 6 p.m. The drapes were open, but the light did not intrude through the window for some reason. The windows must be tinted, I reasoned. There's no other logical explanation for why the room was so dark at this time. It wasn't a small room, as hotel rooms go. There was a queen-size bed, a round dining table, a writing desk, and a small couch. The bathroom door, located opposite the front door, was closed. I stepped gingerly into the room and noticed a thick, cloying smell, like someone sprayed the room with too much air freshener. The smell filled my nostrils and made my headache go into overdrive. I left the front door half open, flipped on a light switch, and looked around the place. It was clean and spotless. They must have replaced all the carpet and the furniture. From the crime scene photos I saw, there wasn't enough carpet cleaner in the world to remove the amount of blood that soiled it. I walked over to where the salt hexagon was drawn. Hillary said it was in the area in front of the bathroom door. The carpet was spotless here too. I looked up at the ceiling and was not surprised to see there was a fresh coat of paint covering the spot where Hillary described the blood drawing of the Ouroboros. They did too good a job cleaning up the room. There was nothing left for me to see. I was just about to leave when I thought I heard a sound coming from inside the bathroom. I originally wasn't going to check the bathroom since there was nothing in Hillary's report about anything happening in there. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. If I open the bathroom door, I'm gonna find a naked, wrinkled old woman in the bathtub who wants to kiss me. We all saw that movie, right? Well, given how my luck with women has been lately, that might be an improvement. My imagination went into overdrive as I turned the door handle and pushed open the door slowly. in case any old ladies were waiting to jump me. The bathroom was pitch dark, which made sense since there were no windows in there. I reached in to find a light switch. I fumbled around for a bit, and a thought crept into the back of my mind. What if something grabbed my hand? I fought down the urge to pull my hand back, found the switch, and flipped it. The light went on for a second, and then the bulb blew out with a popping sound. In the second that the light flickered on and off, I could have sworn I saw movement in the corner of the bathroom near the sink. My heart was racing now. I instinctively backed slowly out of the bathroom when all of a sudden I heard the front door slam close. I reflexively turned to look at the front door, and while my back was turned, I heard movement coming from the bathroom. I turned back toward the bathroom, but before I was able to fully orient myself, something hit me and knocked me to the floor. I fell hard on my back. Whatever knocked me down was now on top of me. I felt it faintly as if touching smoke, but I couldn't see the thing that pinned me to the ground. I tried to knock it off me, but it was still too insubstantial. It was so close to me that I felt its warm, fetid breath on my face. The smell of it made me gag and retch. The delicious sippy chili with rice I had for lunch was about to make a return trip back up the gullet when suddenly the thing stopped breathing on me, and instead it started sucking the air out of me as if a vacuum hose was connected to my mouth. I felt faint as all the air left my lungs. I gasped desperately for breath and tried to push the thing away from me, but my hands just passed right through it. Now, I don't know if it was the lack of oxygen or if I really saw this, but as I came near to passing out, I saw a blue light escape from my mouth and enter the thing on top of me. It filled the thing up from inside, and I could then see it was human-shaped. The blue light then flowed through and out of the thing and flowed back to the area in front of the bathroom door, creating an oval of blue light which sizzled and crackled. It expanded as more and more blue energy was ripped from me. I grew weaker and weaker as the blue energy was sucked out of me to provide juice for what I now realized was a portal opening. It increased in size until it was big enough for someone or something to pass through it. As if on cue, several shadowy creatures approached the portal from the other side. I had a feeling that if I didn't do something soon, I would be having a meet and greet with a bunch of creatures from beyond. That is, if I didn't pass out first. The thing on top of me continued sucking the essence from me. As I grew weaker, it became more physically present. I could now touch it as its form took on substance. Here's where I like to think I formed a brilliant strategy, even as my situation became more and more dire. But more likely, this thought came to me as a result of my deteriorating mental state. If this thing was able to take on human shape and had a mouth to suck the life from me, then there was a 50% chance it had balls to be kicked. As I was about to fade to black, I had nothing to lose. I brought up my knee as hard as I could in the approximate area of its potential twig and berries and connected against something soft and squishy. It shouted out a painful scream as it fell off me and onto the floor beside me. As soon as we lost physical contact, the blue energy stopped flowing out of my mouth. I was finally able to breathe in a lungful of beautiful stale air and regain my composure. I prepared myself to meet whatever was about to come through the portal, but without my life energy to power it, the portal started to close. One of the creatures still tried to pass through. It stuck out an appendage to hold the portal open, but the collapsing portal was too strong. It closed around the arm and sheared it right off from the rest of the creature. With a thud, the arm fell onto the hotel room floor as the portal faded into nothingness. The arm then disappeared in a puddle of smoke and dust. The thing I threw off me also started to fade away. I scrambled up and backed away from it as it lay on the ground, groaning. I needed to keep the thing visible, and that's when I had bright idea number 2. I ran out to the hallway, grabbed the first fire extinguisher I could find, and returned to the room. The groaning sounds got softer as the thing faded. I quickly sprayed the extinguisher in the area where the cries were coming from. My hunch worked. The foam clung to the shape of a man who was lying on his back, clutching his groin area. He started coughing as the foam got into his mouth. I guess it just wasn't his day. I grabbed a set of restraining zip ties from my pocket and bound his hands and feet together. I sat down on the bed to catch my breath and noticed the man's form stopped fading and started to take shape underneath the foam. It was as if a spell had been broken and I was watching a black and white movie being colorized in front of my eyes. The man was in his early 50s, wore a black jacket on top of a white collared shirt, gray pleated pants, leather dress shoes, and he had white blonde hair. As he finished coughing, he wiped the foam from his face, and I noticed a huge gash on his neck going from ear to ear. I recognized him from the photos. It was William Satterley. The wound on his neck was so big, he would have made an amazing human pears dispenser walking down Kalakaua Avenue for Halloween. I read about a type of human ritual sacrifice that fell under necromancy or death magic, which enabled the exchange of souls between entities. Satterley's experience showed that this could also occur between dimensions. Now, the question was, whose soul was in Satterley's body, and what the hell was he trying to accomplish with me and the portal? I rolled Satterley onto his back. He looked at me with a glassy expression. His head lolled backward from the gash. It was barely connected to his body by a small amount of flesh from the back of his neck. I could see his spine and viscera inside his neck hole, which opened up as if it were grinning at me. It took all my strength to swallow back down the puke that wanted to escape from the confines of my mouth so badly. Satterley stared at me intently as foam continued to bubble out from both his mouth and the neck wound. He tried to speak, but all that came out was more foam. He then gurgled something in a deep guttural tone that was either nonsense or just some unfamiliar language. It sounded almost like a command as he looked at me with an expression of anger and indignation. When I ignored him, he became quiet again and just glared at me. Okay, interrogation time. Why don't we sit you up nice and neat so we can talk? I dragged one of the chairs over and placed it in front of Satterley, then grabbed him from behind and lifted him into the chair, careful to avoid accidentally pulling his head off. I zip-tied his arms and legs to the chair just to be safe. I pulled out my phone and turned on the voice recorder, selected my interrogations folder, then started the recorder. What? Doesn't everyone have an interrogations folder on their phone? Okay, who are you? Where is Satterley? Is he dead? He just continued glaring at me. Come on, brah, say something. You giving me the stink eye, so I know you have something to tell me. I wonder if a little water would help loosen his tongue. Maybe he was thirsty from being dead for a few months. I went to the bathroom sink and got a glass of water. All right, open sesame, I told him as I poured water into his mouth and down his throat. Oops, sorry, I added as I poured just a little too quickly and water spilled all over his face and mouth. Some of it even squirted out of his neck hole. I didn't know whether to laugh or be horrified, so I did a little bit of both.
Gah, gah, gah.
Sadly sputtered. Then he started repeating something that sounded like,
Lo, katapa, into raka.
I ran this through the Google Translate, but got nothing. He continued glaring at me as he spat out the last of the water I fed him. Hey, don't worry, brah. You ain't gonna drown with that big neck hole leaking everything that goes down your throat. That's payback for trying to suck all my cosmic blue energy, which I didn't even know I had. My strength was almost back to normal, but I still felt like I had just run a marathon. Actually, I imagined how I would feel if I ran one, as I would never intentionally torture my body that way. Satterley then started struggling against his zip ties. He was surprisingly strong for someone who was dead. He broke one zip tie and pulled his right arm free from the chair and was about to pull his left arm free when I clobbered him on the back of the head with the glass. It shattered over what was left of his skull. He slumped down in the chair and stopped moving. Damn it! I hope I didn't kill him again and whoever was in Satterley's body was still in there. I still needed answers. I retied his right arm to be safe and noticed resistance from him. He then made some soft groaning sounds. I gave a sigh of relief knowing he was still in there. At this point, I was sure he didn't speak English, and I wasn't sure if he spoke any other recognizable language that was readily spoken today. I needed to find out who was in that body and what his intentions were. This was more than just one of those spirits with unfinished business that I usually encountered. If he got the portal to open again, I'd bet dollars to malasadas that whatever came through from the other side was hostile and a threat to humanity. I had a feeling they weren't visiting for Mai Tais and Poke. The first step was to find out what language he spoke, and I knew exactly who to call. My old friend, Dr. Beverly Kamara from Bishop Museum. She was a Hawaiian language expert. If anyone could help me figure out old, complex languages, she would be the one. The only problem was that we didn't exactly part on good terms when we last met. Okay, we dated for a while, but it just didn't work out. You know what I mean? I called her on the phone. I hope she didn't block my number like she blocked me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. It rang 4 times. I was prepared to leave a voicemail when she answered.
What do you want?
What? No hello for your ex-boyfriend?
I'm not lending you any money.
I'm hurt now. You know I'm good for that $500. I wasn't good for it. Tell you what, you help me with this case and I'll give you a small amount equivalent to the value you provide.
That sounds exactly why our relationship ended. Are you still playing Ghostbuster?
Hear me out on this before you judge. I'm betting you want to help me out once you hear the details.
Spit it out. I'm headed out to the gym and could use a good laugh.
I need to find a translator for a client. The problem is I don't know what language he's speaking, so I need you to help me figure out what this language is.
What do you mean you don't know what language he's speaking? Can't you just use Google Translate?
Well, he's kind of a special case, you might say. I think he's speaking an older language that's no longer commonly spoken. So I need you to help me figure out the language and find someone who still understands this language. Probably someone in academics or an egghead, like you.
Well, since you insulted me, I feel much better about helping you now.
I meant that as a compliment. You know how much I appreciate your brains? Bev, I guarantee you will be interested in figuring out this language.
Okay, you got me intrigued now. I can drop by for a few minutes before gym. Where you stay?
I'm at the Moani Hotel, room 217. Oh, and can you bring some pizza and beer? I haven't eaten yet, and I got a feeling this might take a while. I can't leave this guy alone at the moment.
Why don't you call room service?
I'm not exactly a guest.
Say no more. This comes out of your tab. Be there in 30 minutes.
Roger that. Mahalo. See you then. I hung up and looked at Satterley. He was still out cold. It was barely perceptible, but I could see movement behind his eyes. Hey, I hope you're hungry, buddy, cause pizza's coming. He didn't respond. While I waited for Bev, I contemplated searching Satterley for clues, but the prospect of touching him again made me shudder. A sudden knock came from the front door, which almost made me jump out of my skin. I cautiously went over and looked through the peephole. Sorry to interrupt this episode of the podcast, but as I'm recording this, my laptop battery is dying and I can't find my charger anywhere. So take a break and come back next week when I will find my charger and finish off this episode. You will want to stay tuned to find out who is knocking at the door, who is possessing William Satterley, and if I survive. Wait a minute, if I didn't survive, then how can I be recording this? Never mind. Come back next week for the rest of the haunting at the Moani Hotel. You have been listening to Paranormal Investigations Hawaii from the case files of Harry Wong, Paranormal Investigator, a fictional podcast.